Hello, and welcome to this live online concert presented by the National Arts Club. I'm Paul Schwendener, and on behalf of the Music Committee, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this event. Since its founding in 1898, the National Arts Club has been guided by its nonprofit mission to stimulate, foster, and promote public interest in the arts. During this extraordinary pandemic year, the club has offered more than 160 free online programs to the public in 17 different fields for the arts and reaching an audience of 75,000 so far this season. For more information about the club, our programs, and to learn how you can become a member, visit us at nationalartsclub.org or find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Today, the National Arts Club is honored to present an exceptional artist. Chelsea Guo is a top prize winner in the 2020 National Chopin Competition. Just 20 years old, she has earned praise as a superb pianist as well as a singer of the great art song repertoire. Her solo piano and concerto performances have taken her to Carnegie Hall and other prominent venues around the globe. For her National Arts Club debut, Chelsea Guo will perform 2 piano masterpieces, and she will then accompany herself performing a famous song cycle about love and life. The program details will be in the video you're about to see. Now you can submit questions for Chelsea via the chat sidebar on your screen. There will be a short Q&A following the performance. I invite you now to relax, sit back, and enjoy the music.
Ich kann's nicht fassen, nicht glauben, es hat ein Traum mich berührt. Wie hätte du unter allen mich Arme erhöht und beglückt. Mir was habe gesprochen, ich bin auf ewig dein. Mir wohl sich träumen noch immer, es kann ja nimmer so sein. Es kann ja nimmer so sein. Oh, lass im Traum mich sterben, gewiegert an seiner Brust, den seligen Tod mich schläfen, im Tränen und endlicher Lust. Ich kann's nicht fassen, nicht glauben, es hat ein Traum mich berührt, wie hätte doch unter allen mich Arme erhöht und beglückt. Ich kann's nicht fassen, nicht glauben, es hat ein Traum mich berührt. Du Ring an meinem Finger, mein goldenes Ringlein, ich drücke dich fromm an die Lippen, dich fromm an die Lippen, an das Herz mein. Ich hat ihn ausgeträumet, der Kindheit friedlich schönen Traum. Ich fand allein mich verloren, im öden und endlichen Raum. Du Ring an meinem Finger, da hast du mich erst beliebt, hast meinem Blick erschlossen, des Lebens unendlichen Tiefen Wert. Ich will ihm dienen, im Leben, ihm angehören ganz, ihn selber mich geben und finden verklärt mich, und finden verklärt mich in seinem Glanz. Du Ring an meinem Finger, mein goldenes Ringlein, ich drücke dich fromm an die Lippen, dich fromm an die Lippen, an das Herz mein. Hilf mir, Schwester, Freund, mich schmücken, die Glücklichen heute mir. Findet geschäftig mir um die Stirne noch den blühenden Myrtenzier. Als ich befriedigt, freudig im Herzen, sonst den Geliebten in Armen lag, immer noch Frevel, Sehnsucht im Herzen, ungeduldig den heutigen Tag. Helft mir, Schwestern, helft mir verscheuchen eine tödliche Bangigkeit, dass ich mit klarem Auge ihm empfange in die Quelle, die Freudigkeit. Bist mein Geliebter, du mir erschienen, gibst du mir Sonne da, steuert im Schwester, steuert im Blum, bringet im Bosmenden Rosen dar. Aber euch Schwestern grüß ich mit Wehmut. Freudig scheiden aus euer Schar, freudig scheiden aus euer Schar. meiner Brust. Du meine Wonne, du meine Lust, das Glück ist die Liebe ist das Glück. Ich hab's gesagt und nimm's nicht zurück, hab überschwellig mich geschätzt, bin überglücklich, aber jetzt nur dir das Zeug, nur dir das Lieb, das Kind, dem sie die Nahrung gibt. Nur deine Mutter weiß allein, was Leben heißt und glücklich sein. Oh, wie bedeutet ich doch den Mann, die Mutter glücklich fühlen kann. Du Liebe, Liebe, Engel, du schaust mich an und lächelst dazu, an meinem Herzen, an meiner Brust. Du meine Wonne, du meine Lust. Nun hast du mir den ersten Schmerz getan, dir aber traf. Du schlägst, du harte, unbarmherzige Mann, den Todesschlaf. Es blicket die Verlassene vor sich hin. Die Welt ist leer, ist leer.
Bravo, Chelsea, bravo. I'm going to bring Chelsea on now for a Q&A. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat box. I think I see her. Hi, Chelsea.
Hi there. Hi, Mitch.
Thank you for that performance.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute joy to do.
Sure. We had lots of great comments and questions in the chat box here. I'll start with a question, an easy one. Can you tell us when you started, I guess, performing, and have you always both played piano and sung, or did one come first?
Well, that's a great question. I get that one a lot. I actually started primarily as a pianist up until I think it was really about 2 years ago that I considered making vocal music potentially part of my career plan. And that was because I really found so many interesting opportunities like this one to program things that were unique and could really express something, because the text, the poetry, of course, adds something completely, like a whole new element of art to the program. So that was something I really wanted to play around with. But I started singing around age 15 or 16, not too long ago, and I just discovered that I really enjoyed doing it. So
Great. Well,
yeah,
we're glad you picked it up, and thanks again for sharing it with us.
thank you.
And a follow-up question from the audience. This is a question from Martin, and his question is, I know some jazz singers who also play piano accompaniment, but do you know of any other classical singers who do so?
Yeah, so like Martin said, there are plenty of cabaret jazz singers that do this kind of thing. So it is not a new art, really, that we're unfamiliar with. But what is interesting is that actually back, I think in the 1800s, around this time that this music was written, it was actually quite common for women to be singing and playing at the same time and to be proficient in both. So I actually discovered that after I started singing. But for modern day singers, I would say, I don't know if you're familiar, but during the pandemic, I think both Joyce DiDonato and Erin Morley, two singers at the Met, did release some videos of them singing and playing, although I don't know that they make it as much of part of their performance life as I do, but I saw that and I was very excited to see that kind of art being represented. So yeah.
We'll encourage everyone to check those out.
Yes, absolutely. They're wonderful performances.
And now, did you learn German for singing, or do you speak German? And what's that experience of singing in another language?
That's a great question. I took German for a year, maybe a little more than a year, through school, and I just finished my semester of it, actually. So I hesitate to say that I speak German, but I do know the basic structure of the language, and it does make it easier to sing, absolutely. I don't really study the other languages. I haven't yet in the same way. So in terms of foreign languages, German is the most familiar for me to work with. But I do make it a goal. I am going to make it a goal. I think one day I want to be fluent in all the languages that I sing in, at least commonly sing in. So yeah.
And then, so a follow-up to that then, what other languages do you sing in?
I sing, as most singers do, most commonly in German, French, Italian, and of course in English as well. I have sung Polish, but I'm not sure that that's on my list of languages to be fluent in because it is incredibly difficult. And I have sung in Chinese, which I grew up speaking. So yes.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
This is a question from Karen, and she's again talking about your playing and your singing, and she says, how do you manage both roles so well? What goes into that?
Thank you for saying that I do it well, first of all. But I think I've learned, it's still new to me to figure out how to do these things simultaneously, but I figured that I have to learn it as a pianist and learn it as a singer before I can even attempt to put them together. So I have to work on it, I guess, just as any singer would, looking at the poetry, looking at the text, really figuring out what I want to do vocally and expressively. And then at the piano part, which in this piece, the Frauenliebe und Leben, is what makes this piece so special is that the piano part is so separate from the vocal part. So I really had to, it's not always the case, but in this piece, I really had to learn it as a pianist as well, which was very difficult, and putting them together, which took a lot of time and coordination to try and fit together. So
thank you for putting in the time.
No, it was so much to learn from in that process, I think. So
absolutely. And we were talking a little bit earlier, and you said this might be a tougher question, but who are some of your favorite composers who you didn't perform today?
Who I didn't perform today? Well, that's hard to say because I think I have a special place in my heart for every composer that I play. But I do definitely have a real strong connection with the composers who have composed both vocal and piano music for obvious reasons, but also piano composers who are very vocally geared, like Chopin. And of course, I just always come back to Schubert, Schumann, Mozart, the very core, leader repertoire as well as piano repertoire, and Debussy to art song and melody and also like piano works. So I can't narrow it down because every time I play something, I'm like, this is my new favorite piece. This is my new favorite composer. But yeah.
It's hard to pick favorites sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you touched a little bit earlier on the pandemic. What was that like for you? And have you had a chance to perform in front of an audience yet?
Yes. So the pandemic, I think, obviously it's awful that we had a pandemic. I'm not going to say that it was great for me at all, but I will say that it did give me time to, luckily all of my loved ones and people that I knew were safe and stayed well. So that element I was very fortunate to not be so deeply affected by. But as an artist, I had so much time to just sit and really do and learn the pieces that I wanted to do, which was such a luxury because sometimes we're planning for things that are coming up, but just to be able to sit and enjoy what I was doing and not feel rushed, that was such an incredible year of being able to do that. And also I did quite a few virtual things, but not nearly as busy as of course it normally is. And I actually did perform for an audience a few weeks ago in Florida. Right after I was fully vaccinated, I went straight to a concert and I performed live, and that was such an incredible experience to see people almost like live the music with you is such a special experience, and I hope we get to do that again very soon. So.
Yeah, I know we're all looking forward to returning to live performance. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
That's exciting that you've had a chance to kind of dip your toes back into it.
Yeah.
Then my final question for you, Chelsea, is just going to be, how can people learn more about you? Is there a website or social media they should check out?
So I do have a website. It's chelseaguopiano.com. Pretty straightforward. And I have a few social media things. I think if you just look up my name, it should come up. I think my Instagram handle is Chelsea Guo Music. So I think that's
right. All right. We encourage everyone to check out your website, search for you on social media.
Thank you.
Chelsea, thank you again for sharing your talents with us this evening.
Thank you, Mitch, and thank you to all who tuned in. I really appreciate being able to share everything with all of you.
I just want to encourage everyone to check out nationalartsclub.org to learn more about upcoming programs and enjoy your evenings and weekends. Bye, everyone.